So today for our spreadsheet occupation, we're going to work on this assignment that is the thing that students find most engaging, which is clicking really fast. Okay, and we're going to learn in the spreadsheet how to take the average and the median. I don't care so much about the mode, but we're going to look at the range and do all those things with the spreadsheet. But then we're going to work on mean absolute deviation. Okay, so if you look at mean absolute deviation, and when you have something like that, just look it up and see what it says. So mean absolute deviation, and basically, what you do is you take your numbers and you find out the average, okay? And then you find out how far away the numbers are from the average, okay? So for example, if you had 11, 11, and 11, the average is 11, but they're all exactly at the average, and so the mean absolute deviation is 0. Where if you have 10, 11, and 12, the average is still 11, but 10 is 1 away from 11, 11's right on, and 12 is 1 away from 11, so you have a total of 2 away from 11. Then you got to take the average, so on average they're 2/3 away. Okay? And so we're going to look at this, and we're going to look at how we can do a spreadsheet to do it. So this is a fun thing, right? So you get to punch this guy and click as much as you want. So you're going to do this activity, but what you're also going to do is, so if you watch here, so I punch, right? Okay. And so I got 46, so I clicked 46 times. So you're going to do this repeatedly, right? So you're going to do several rounds, and then you're going to eventually get to this slide here, okay? And you're going to have the mean, the median, and the range, and the mean absolute deviation, okay? And you see how many things you have here. You have 5 things. You have 5 things. So let's look at the spreadsheet and see how we would do that. Okay, so mean, median, range, and log. Okay, so I'm going to put in my times. Let's say I did 46, and then the next time I got a little better. I did 50, and I did 42, and 43. And 42. So there's my 5 scores, okay? So then, can I get the average for it, right? So you can say mean equals, all right, and I'm going to say equals the average from A2 to A6. Okay, 44.6. Now, does that make sense? So you look at it and say, yeah, the data makes sense. Okay. Now, I want to get my median from that as well. Okay, so notice for mean I did the average, that was the command, but here I'm doing median equals. So I'm going to use my formula. I say equals median, and I use that same range, right? I do that same range from A2 to A6. So we're going to look at a better way to do that as we go on. Okay, so the median 43, does that make sense? Well, here's something you can do, right, is you can actually sort these if you feel like it. Okay, so you can go to data, sort range. We're going to sort that range from A to Z, and when we do that, we see that 43 is indeed the middle value. Okay, well, what else do we have to do? We have to do the range, so the range equals what? Well, I'll show you a fancy way to do this, but for right now, let's just do it equals 50 minus 42. So we did our max value minus our lowest value. Okay. Now comes the hard part. We're going to do the mean absolute deviation. What does that equal, right? Okay, so the way that you do this is you say, okay, I'm going to take the mean, okay, 44.6. So I'm going to put it here, 44.6. Okay, 44.6. And I want to do that. We're going to do a subtraction between these, right? So I do this and I say, okay, in this column, in C2, I'm going to say equals A2 minus B2, okay? And then I'll take the autofill, okay? All right, so I've got this. And now I want to take the average of those. So it equals the average of the distances, right? So I said 42 is 2.6 away, 43, 46, how far are they away? And I'm going to take the average. So I said my mean absolute deviation is the average of C2 up to C6. Oh no, 0. Okay, so you just saw the misconception that I transmitted to one of the best students we've ever had in Upper L. Okay, and so what happened is, when you do that subtraction, you're trying to find how far away, but notice if you have points, if you have a data point that's below the average and a point that's above, it cancels out. Well, you don't want that to cancel out. Just like when you had 10, 11, and 12, you don't want to say, well, 10 is below 11 and 12 is above, so I don't have it, and I average out to 0. You don't want to have that, right? And so, and because of that, I had a student who didn't get into advanced math back when it was really hard to get into it. And so, fortunately, she still went to Berkeley, University of California. So it hasn't ruined her career forever. But here's the thing, right? Is one way to fix this is we want to say we can take the, and I'm going to put ABS. So that means I don't care if it's positive or negative. Give me the positive value, how big it is. So I say that. Okay, ABS, the absolute value. We're going to learn about that as time goes on here. So now I go over and I say, take that. Okay, and now you see that this got fixed. The mean absolute deviation got fixed, 2.72. Okay, so that's a measure of how spread out are the values. Okay, so I know my average is 44.6, but how spread out are the values? Okay, now unfortunately what happens is we're going to get one where we have to do 11 values. So I got to do all this extra work again. All right. So what we want to do is let's see how we can rearrange our work to do a better job of being able to handle 5 values or 20 values. All right. So we'll insert some extra rows. Okay. And I'm going to show you the sort of the cheating way to do this. Okay. I'm going to call this a range here. So I'm going to do this range. Okay, and we're going to make this into a named range, and the named range is going to be source data. Let's call it source data. You can call it whatever you want, right? I'm going to call it source data. Right? So I've got my source data, right? And so what do I want the average from? So now notice how nice this is, right? I can just say mean of my source. So I start typing in source, and then there's my source data pops up. Mean of my source data, okay? Do I also want the median? Yeah, I want the median of my source data. Okay, so I do median of source data. Okay, and we get that. And can I do the range? I wonder if I could, now, could I just do the range of the, let's see if I can do that. So let's see if there's a range command. Okay, so range. Notice how it didn't highlight, right? It didn't highlight, so, all right. So I'll show you another way that you can do this. So it's really the min, so we have it as 50 minus 42. Let's try this. Let's try the max of our source data minus the min of our source data. Let's see if that works. Okay, and we try that, and we still get 8, okay? So if we don't have range, you can just take the maximum value minus the minimum value. You see that's a nice way to do it, okay? And you get that. Okay, now, what else what else could we do that would help to make this better, right? Is, well, notice how your mean is right there in B18. So let's add a range, and let's put in our average for the data, or average for the clicks. All right, so we're going to do that. Okay, and so then over here, instead of copying that value each time, okay, let's see what we have here. Let's just put in here. Oh, notice how you don't need this table anymore at all, right? You don't need this table anymore. So now, what you can just take is you can take equals. We're going to do the absolute value of our A2 minus the average for the clicks. Okay. So we take that, and we're just going to go through and do that, right? So we don't need this side of the table anymore at all, right? Because our subtraction, we can do it right there. We don't need that extra thing. Okay. So take a look at this. So we say take the absolute value of how many times you clicked minus the average. Okay? So we've got that. Okay? And now, okay, so now we can make this into a named range as well. So these are let's call it the deviations, right? So we're going to do format, and we're going to do a name. Oh, sorry. So we'll highlight this set of data, and we'll say that's going to be a named range as well, and that is our deviations. We'll call it that. So how far away were we, the deviations? Okay. And so then our average, and so you can just see that how much easier this is for someone who's looking at your spreadsheet. So if we go and say view, show formulas, okay, so I went under view, I'm saying show formulas, okay, and then we'll expand that a little bit. Notice how these formulas, A2 minus the average for clicks, the average of source data, median of source data, the max of source data minus the source data, the average of the deviations. So what you're doing is when someone else comes along later and looks at your spreadsheet, by using the named ranges, they can easily read what you're doing instead of having to say, well, let's see, what B2 to B6, why are they going there, what do they do? Okay. Now, what I want to do is, let's turn off that, so let's not view those anymore. Okay, so I'm not going to view those anymore. So we say view, show, and we toggle formulas off. Okay. What we'd like to do now is, let's say you have to do 7. You have to do 7 values, okay? Now, if I add something here, so your mean is 46. Let's say, I did 100 clicks. Nothing happened down here, right? Okay. So I added data, but nothing happened. But let's try it if we add a couple in between, insert 2 rows above. Let's look what happens at 44.6 if I put 100 in there. Look at how the data changed, right? Okay, so this is my advice to you. If you have a named range, insert in the middle. Okay, so now let's say we had 2 guys, right? So we had a really good clicker. We did 100, 112. Okay. Now you might say, hey, what happened to my numbers? Okay, so this is the important thing, right? Is that you don't care down to, the 6th decimal place. So you just move them over, and it's probably okay to have just tenths, right? So you just have tenths. Okay, now look at here, that formula. Okay, so we inserted there, so we're going to have to drag our formula down, but that one looks okay too. All right, so there we have it. And now you have a method in which you can add more. So let's just verify that that's what's happening. Okay. Let's verify that that's what's happening. So eventually you're going to need 11 values. So we're going to add 4 more in here. And we're insert 4 rows above. And let's see that you start getting really good. So we're going to do 150, 160, 170, and 180. Okay. So we add those values. Okay. And so now our mean has gone up to 99.5. But we're going to just take that formula down, and we're going to pull it down there. Okay. Okay, so we have a mean. The average deviation is 50. Let's see if that. So as you look at that, it seems to make sense. Our mean's 99.5. Medium's 100. So remember, we can also kind of check this because you can sort. Be careful though. So you want to sort. Actually, it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter. So we can just sort this range, and let's take a look. So we sort this range, and we get 100 there, right? Okay. So think about that. Why could I sort that and this one still worked, right? Because this says I'm going to look at whatever's over there. Okay. So we have our mean, our median, our range, and our mean absolute deviation. Okay. So now you might want to get a little fancy. So you say, okay, I'm gonna color, there's my data, right? Same thing here. You might want to say, okay, this is a little different, right? So there's that. It's a little too dark, so maybe I'll make it a little lighter, a little darker than that. Okay, and then I might want to put the boxes around that to make it okay. And then you say, well, I widened it. Just look at the formulas, but okay. And then you might say, this is punches per round, punches, okay, and this is This is the deviation from average. Okay, a difference from the average. So we're labeling a little bit. Average. Okay, then that doesn't fit, so you got a decision to make, but what you can do if you want is you can just say, I'm going to wrap. So we're going to wrap over there. We're going to do the wrapping. Okay, so then we got a wrap there. Okay, you want to make your header a little bit different. So let's make it, say, a light blue. Okay. And so you got that. Another thing that you maybe haven't done before is we could have some conditional formatting. And let's just highlight the ones where they're really far from the mean. Okay, so we're going to highlight from B2 to B12, and we're going to go to conditional formatting, and we're going to give, so we say if, and we're going to do if data is, if it's greater than, let's say, 50, so it's really far away from, so greater than 50, and let's color it as red. Okay, so we'll color those as red. Right? So we just did some conditional formatting. We said, as we look at that data, let's see what happened. Now, what happens though, let's say that I say, oh well, what if I said, oh no, 46, I really wrote that wrong, it's 52. You can see how changing the data, it said, oh, now my difference is just 11, it's less than 50. Okay, so this conditional formatting, also a very powerful technique to let people visually see how your data has been, how to highlight aspects of the data. So here we're highlighting rounds where you were far away from your average. Okay, so give that a try. Use that punch the boxing program. Most people really enjoy that, but this will give you a lot easier time, as you see, in working on